Hey guys, Mario here, otherwise known as Y2 on the interwebs, and welcome to another weirdly timed 52 review. So I decided to mix in the comics from July 4th, the 4th of July, with the ones I got last week, the 11th of July, into one large lump, hopefully not too large, review. So let's get started with Before Watchmen, Ozymandias, number 1 of 6. So this was an interesting story by Len Wein. Pretty much the guy that went and done the thing that he did both in the comics and in the movies. We get to figure out how it all came to be. Basically kind of a Citizen Kane type of background story without the somewhat somber and sad ending. Because we know how it ends. Okay, it's still pretty somber and sad. I have to say I really liked it. It was pretty intriguing. It wasn't a surprise It wasn't a surprise bit of enjoyment like Night Owl was, but for what it was, I still enjoyed the hell out of it. Now, Jay Lee's artwork was a little hit or miss. It just looks like some sort of postmodern art, which, now that I think about it, considering who the character in question is, that actually works rather well. I don't think I've met a bad Before Watchmen comic yet. The comedian one was confusing as hell, but it wasn't bad. It looks like Ozymandias is pretty much the same way. Next up is Justice League International, number 11. So we pretty much get a wrap up to the storyline right here. And it's been an interesting road for the JLI. It started off as a jovial, B-team, lighthearted kind of romp, but, you know, it ended up being something far more serious in issue 6. And I think the series ended up being better for it. Dan Jurgens did something good here. I'm happy to say. I actually enjoyed Booster Gold, and yeah, even Guy Gardner's a little more tolerable. The only thing I didn't like about this issue, or rather the one complaint I have, is where the hell did Batman go? As you saw in issue 10, he wasn't exactly in a position to just up and go. So I don't know what the hell that was about. Hopefully something will explain that. But for what it was, and for what this issue is, everything wrapped up nicely. It was pretty action-packed, and everyone that I expected to do what they did. So it was pretty good. What sucks is that the days of the JLA are numbered. We know that the series is going to end real soon, and it makes me a little sad, because honestly, I feel like this series could have kept on going. But that's how it is, folks. So let's just enjoy what's left, and hopefully Dan Jurgens gives us a hell of a send-off. Next up is Detective Comics number 11. Alright, so again, this was okay. I mean, the story's pretty good. It had its interesting twists. But again, something's missing. I mean, yeah, it's a Batman comic, but it's not the Batman comic. No. I'm going to get to that one in a little bit. I feel like there's just something missing here, you know, like it's called Detective Comics. There's just something missing here that makes it worthy of that title. I'm not saying that the story was bad. It's really not. It could be much worse, like the Penguin one. But there's just something a little off about it. Hopefully, we get to see at least some sort of conclusion to this little story arc before I move on to the next one. I've heard some good things about what's coming up next. I'm excited. Next up, Action Comics, number 11. So, once again, Grant Morrison has made a pretty good issue. Not one of his best, but it's still far better than a lot of other series out there. I'm not sure where he's going with what happened to Clark. Well, I really can't say his name is Clark anymore. That's all I'm going to say about that. You'll have to read the series for yourself to find out what I'm talking about. But I just question Morrison's decision to go that route, you know? Because, especially since we know in the other Superman comic, things are pretty much the way you would expect. His identity is exactly what you would think it is. Here it's not. We still don't know. We do figure out why, but we just don't know where it's going. And we know eventually he's gonna take back his old identity. So I don't know. It was nice to have Superman realize that he's not gonna have the answers all the time, and it was kind of an interesting bro moment. Him going to Batman for advice. That was pretty interesting. It was pretty nice. The backup was kind of cool, kind of funny too. Basically, it more or less explains, maybe, how Superman keeps getting all these shirts, the t-shirt with the S, how that came about. It was an interesting, lighthearted story, and again, it just made this issue a little bit more better than it should have been. And yeah, it's not the best, but it's still a pretty good issue, and considering the caliber of this series so far, I'm not complaining. Alright, so those were from the 4th of July. Now let's get my picks that I got from the 11th, starting with Batgirl number 11. Interesting. When this series first started, I hated it. I was really mad that such crappy writing and crappy storyline was happening. And here we are, 10 issues later, and, well, starting with issue 9, we started getting hints of a much more sinister threat to Batgirl, and the start of a pretty huge story arc. We haven't quite gotten into it yet. We do get a bit of a little more of a teaser in this issue, but this issue focuses more on Nightfall and her group and their plans for Gotham and how Batgirl plans to stop them. We still don't know yet, but it's got the juices flowing. It's got me interested enough to have me keep on reading. So good for you, Gail Simone. Good for you. Can't complain about the artwork. Adrian Siaf's artwork is still pretty well done, and the story and the dialogue is actually cool. I have to say it took him a while, but I think Gail Simone found a direction for Batgirl, and hopefully the momentum continues. Next up, Batman and Robin, number 11. It's not a bad issue, but it's just a little out of character, or at least the character of this series. So far in this series, we've had some serious noir type of direction, noirish type of direction. We've had a serious father-son bonding, and by bonding I mean yelling and disagreements, and a pretty traumatic experience with nobody in that whole story arc, and the way it ended, you knew there was going to be some repercussions. Here, we're just not seeing them as much. I mean, it's mentioned, but I thought it was going to be a little more heavier than it is. Also, Damian going after all the past Robins to prove a point, it's both good and bad. I think it's kind of cool, but at the same time, is it really pertinent to anything right now? Don't know. And I'm not liking these villains at all. It seems corny. This issue felt corny. The villains are corny. If it wasn't for Damian going after the Red Hood, this issue probably would have been a flop. And there's just some lines. There's this one line in particular that Batman says. I know Peter Tomasi meant well, but it just kind of makes me groan. I expect better from Batman and Robin. It's actually a pretty good series, and this one just felt a little weak. And then, of course, you know this was coming. You know, Batman number 11, Nerdgasm. Hell of a finale. Not quite what I expected, but it was still freaking amazing. So, we got a very conclusive conclusion. I'm going to go with that. There were a couple of questions that were left hanging in the air, but it didn't feel like a cop-out, and it didn't make me feel like there was no true ending. I felt that things wrapped up pretty nicely. It's just that I understood why some questions were still left up in the air, or any possible future storylines. Are the Court of Owls dealt with? The answer is I don't think so. But at least we know that Batman's a little more wiser from his experiences. Scott Snyder's writing, again, just top notch. And Greg Capullo's artwork, once again, this powerhouse duo that has kept me entranced for the last 11 issues. They had me from issue 1, and the momentum has not stopped throughout. I was super skeptical that an 11-issue story arc could work, but Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo have proved me wrong. I don't know what else to say. It is such a stellar issue, such a stellar story arc, and such a stellar series. Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo, you may never see this review. You may never see me talk about you guys. But if in the off chance that you do, hats off to you guys. And thank you so much for writing such an amazing storyline and pretty much helping out the New 52 and DC in general and Batman overall. I am so excited for what's coming up next. We know that the Joker is coming up in issue 13, and Scott Snyder said it best: you don't bust out the Joker unless you're planning to do something huge and a game changer with it. And I am super excited. Based on what happened in this Court of Owls storyline, it is getting me all riled up and excited. I know we have issue 12 and the issue 0 issues to deal with. That's fine. I'm pretty sure those will be awesome, but I'm waiting for the Joker. I'm a little sad that this story arc ended. I mean, 11 issues, and you would think that would be enough, but I actually feel like I wanted more. Crazy, I know. It is such a good issue. It is such a good series, and I'm actually a fanboy when it comes to, I'll admit, I'm actually a fanboy when it comes to Scott Snyder and this Batman series. Well done, Scott Snyder, Greg Pulo, well done. So that does it for now. What do you think about anything I talked about today? Leave your thoughts. Do you think Batman and Robin was weak? Do you feel that Batman is all that in a bag of chips? Let me know in the commentary plot. I do read them and I do try to get back to you. So that about does it. Anyway, thank you guys for your viewership and your subscriptions. Live Nerdcore. Y2, I'm out.